The transport shuttle touched down on Epsilon Prime at exactly 0800 hours. Jiho Kim pressed his face against the small window, watching the massive station rotate slowly against the backdrop of stars. Somewhere inside that structure was the Valorian Fear Management Institute, and somewhere inside that institute was his future. He grabbed his single travel bag and stepped off the shuttle. The station's artificial gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth's, making each step deliberate. Other passengers moved around him with practiced ease. Most were clearly not human. A tall creature with silver skin glided past. Another being, barely reaching Jiho's waist, scurried by on 6 legs. Jiho had never seen so many different species in one place. Back on Earth, aliens were still rare. Most humans lived their entire lives without meeting anyone from another world. But here, humans were the rare ones. The arrival terminal stretched out before him like a small city. Signs floated in the air, shifting between different languages. Jiho watched as the symbols changed, finally settling on Korean characters he could read. The institute was on level 47 North Quarter. He took the lift up, sharing the space with 3 other beings. None of them looked at him. Jiho wondered if they knew he was human, if they had heard about Earth's new membership in the Galactic Coalition, if they cared at all. The doors opened to a quiet corridor. Polished floors reflected the soft lighting. At the end of the hall stood 2 massive doors made of what looked like crystal. Above them, words glowed in multiple languages. Valorian Fear Management Institute, founded 2987, Excellence Through Stillness. Jiho's heart beat faster. He had trained for this moment for 2 years. After the Mars colony crisis, after losing Doyun, after everything fell apart and came back together, he had focused on this single goal. Earth needed representatives who could handle fear. The galaxy needed people who could function in crisis. Jiho had proven he could do both. He walked through the doors. The reception area was enormous. The ceiling rose at least 3 stories high, covered in what appeared to be a living garden. Plants he didn't recognize hung down like natural chandeliers. The air smelled clean with a hint of something sweet. Behind a curved desk sat a being that looked almost human, except for the slight blue tint to her skin and the extra set of eyes above her normal ones. She looked up as Jiho approached. "Name and purpose," she said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Jiho Kim, first-year applicant from Earth. All 4 of her eyes blinked at once. The human. Yes, she touched something on her desk. "Headmaster Veltaran wants to see you immediately. 5th floor, central chamber. You cannot miss it." Jiho thanked her and found another lift. As it rose, he tried to calm his breathing. Meeting the headmaster on the first day was not part of the standard procedure. He had read the orientation materials 3 times. New students were supposed to report to the dormitories first, then attend an evening welcome ceremony. The lift opened to a circular room with walls made entirely of transparent material. Beyond them, Epsilon Prime stretched out in all directions. Jiho could see the curve of the station, the ships coming and going, the vast darkness of space beyond. In the center of the room stood something that hurt to look at directly. It took Jiho a moment to understand what he was seeing. The headmaster wasn't made of flesh or even normal matter. Veltaran appeared to be made of crystallized light, constantly shifting between different forms, never quite solid, never quite transparent. Jiho Kim. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "I have been debating whether to allow you into this institution." Jiho stood straight. "May I ask why, headmaster?" "Your species has a reputation. Emotional, impulsive, violent. These are not qualities we encourage here." The crystalline form shifted, becoming more solid. "We teach control. We teach the stillness. For 300 years we have perfected the art of separating fear from action. Can humans even comprehend such separation? I survived 6 hours holding together a rescue operation while my partner died in my arms," Jiho said quietly. "I was terrified every second. But 200 people lived because I kept working. I think I understand control." Veltaran moved closer. Jiho felt something touch his mind, light as a feather, cold as ice. The headmaster was reading him somehow, feeling for truth. "Interesting," Veltaran said after a long moment. "Your fear response is extraordinarily high, yet you function despite it. How?" "I don't know any other way," Jiho answered honestly. The headmaster shifted again, becoming less defined. "I will allow you to stay. 1 semester. Probationary status. If you fail even a single trial, you will be sent home. Earth's membership in the coalition is too new for special treatment. Do you understand?
Yes, Headmaster. Report to Instructor Moradin for baseline testing.
Dormitory assignments will follow. Veltarin turned away facing the windows. Do not make me regret this decision. Jiho found his way to the testing center on the second floor. The room was smaller than he expected, barely larger than a closet. A four-armed being with gray skin and no visible eyes waited inside. Jiho Kim, the being said. I am Instructor Moradin. Sit. Jiho sat in the only chair. It adjusted itself automatically to his height and weight. Baseline testing measures your natural fear response, Moradin explained. We will expose you to various stimuli. Your only job is to react naturally. Do not try to control yourself. We need accurate readings. Understood. Something cold pressed against Jiho's temples. The room disappeared. He stood on a narrow bridge over an endless drop. Wind howled around him. The bridge swayed. Jiho's stomach lurched. He gripped the railing, knuckles white. His heart hammered against his ribs. The scene changed. He was in a locked room filling with water. The ceiling pressed down. His lungs burned. Panic clawed at his throat, changed again. Something chased him through darkness. He couldn't see it, but he could hear it breathing, feel its heat behind him. Terror flooded his system. Again and again, the scenarios shifted. Each one targeted a primal fear. Heights, drowning, predators, isolation, pain, loss. Finally, the room returned. Jiho gasped, sweat dripping down his face. His hand shook. Moradin made a sound like grinding stone. Fascinating. Your fear responses are off every chart we have. Your heart rate reached levels that should have caused unconsciousness. Your stress hormones exceeded safe limits. Jiho tried to catch his breath. Did I fail? No. Moradin's forearms moved in what might have been confusion. That is what puzzles me. Despite these responses, your cognitive function remained stable. You continued problem-solving in every scenario. You never froze. You never gave up. How is this possible? I was scared, Jiho said. But being scared doesn't mean I stopped thinking. For every other species we have tested, extreme fear causes mental shutdown. It is an evolutionary protection. The mind removes itself from unbearable situations. Moradin leaned closer. Your mind does not do this. Why? Jiho thought about Mars, about holding Doyen while the colony fell apart around them, about making decisions while everything screamed at him to run, to hide, to give up. Maybe humans evolved differently, he said. Maybe we learned to keep going because stopping meant death. Moradin was silent for a long time. Finally, the instructor said, You are assigned to Dormitory 7, Room 12. Orientation begins tomorrow at dawn. Do not be late. Jiho found his room eventually after getting lost twice. It was small but comfortable. A bed, a desk, a window showing stars. He dropped his bag and sat down heavily. His hands still shook from the testing. His heart still raced. The fears were still fresh in his mind, but he had passed. He was here. He would learn what the galaxy's best could teach him. Outside his window, stars wheeled slowly across the black. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there, people were counting on him to succeed. Jiho closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow would test him further. For now, he was simply grateful to have made it this far. Dawn came early on Epsilon Prime. The station operated on a 20-hour cycle that never quite matched Jiho's internal clock. He woke feeling groggy but forced himself up anyway. First day of actual training. He couldn't afford to be late. The dining hall was already crowded when he arrived. Long tables stretched across a massive room, filled with beings eating things Jiho couldn't identify. He grabbed what looked like it might be safe for human consumption and found an empty corner. You are the human. The voice came from above him. Jiho looked up. An insectoid creature hovered there, wings beating so fast they blurred. Its body was covered in iridescent green plates. Multiple eyes focused on him with disturbing intensity. I'm Jiho, he said. I am Hyun. I heard about your baseline testing. The instructors are very confused by you. The creature landed on the table. I'm also confused. How does one function with so much fear? Practice, I guess. Jiho took a bite of something that tasted like bread mixed with cinnamon. How do you handle fear? I suppress it. When fear comes, I push it away. Lock it in a mental container. This is what we learn here. Hyun's antennae twitched. But you do not do this. No, the fear stays. I just work around it. Fascinating. Hyun made a clicking sound. I believe we should be friends. You think differently. Different thinking is useful. Jiho smiled. I'd like that. They walked to the first training session together. Hyun explained that first-year students started with basic scenarios. Heights, small spaces, darkness, nothing too intense. Most students needed weeks to master the stillness in these situations. The training facility was underground, away from the station's windows and distractions. 23 students gathered in a circular room with a raised platform in the center. Instructor Moradin stood waiting. Welcome to Practical Fear Management, Moradin announced. Today you will face your first real trial, the height simulation. You will stand on a platform 1,000 meters above a pit. The platform will shake. Your task is simple. Achieve stillness. Remain calm. Control your fear. Who volunteers to go first? No one moved. Then I will choose. Moradin's eyeless face somehow focused on Jiho. The human will demonstrate. Jiho stepped onto the platform. The room disappeared. Suddenly he stood on a narrow circle of metal suspended in empty air. Below him, darkness stretched down forever. Wind screamed past his ears. The platform tilted slightly, then rocked hard. His stomach dropped. Every instinct screamed at him to get down, to grab something, to find safety. His heart pounded. Sweat broke out across his skin, but he had felt worse. Mars had been worse. Watching Doyen die had been worse. Jiho focused on his breathing. Slow in, slow out. He wasn't falling. His feet were solid on metal. The fear was real, but the danger was not. He could feel the terror running through his veins, but he didn't let it control his body. The simulation ended. The training room returned. Jiho stepped off the platform. Moradin stood completely still. Impossible. First attempt. First try. Perfect stillness. I wasn't still, Jiho said. I was terrified. Your physical measurements say otherwise. Heart rate stable, breathing controlled, muscle tension minimal. Moradin moved closer. How did you suppress the fear so completely? I didn't suppress it. I felt all of it. I was just scared while standing still. The other students whispered among themselves. Hyun's wings buzzed with what might have been excitement. Moradin made that grinding stone sound again. This is not how it works. Fear must be removed to achieve stillness. You cannot have both simultaneously. But I did, Jiho insisted. The instructor said nothing for a long moment. Finally, Moradin gestured to another student. Talvex, you are next. A tall, thin being with purple skin stepped up. The simulation began. Talvex lasted 30 seconds before stumbling off the platform, breathing hard. 3 more students tried. All failed to achieve stillness. Most couldn't complete the full minute required. The next day brought a different trial. Hyun warned Jiho it would be harder. They entered a different chamber. This one had multiple platforms, each with a single student. Moradin explained the exercise. They would face a predator simulation. Something would hunt them in a virtual environment. They needed to hide, to stay calm, to avoid detection through perfect control of their fear response. Predators, Moradin explained, could sense fear. The simulation began. Jiho found himself in a dense forest. Moonlight filtered through strange trees. Something growled in the distance. Something big. He pressed himself against a tree trunk. His breathing wanted to speed up. His body wanted to run. Every human instinct told him to move, to fight, to flee. But running would get him caught. Fighting was impossible. He needed to be smart. The predator came closer. Jiho could see it now through the trees. It looked like a cross between a bear and a wolf, with too many teeth and eyes that glowed red. It sniffed the air, turned its massive head slowly. Fear flooded through Jiho. Pure, primal terror. The same fear his ancestors must have felt hiding from real predators millions of years ago. But Jiho didn't run. He acknowledged the fear, accepted it, and stayed absolutely still. Not because the fear was gone, because running would kill him. The predator passed by. It never looked his way. The simulation ended. Jiho opened his eyes to find Moradin standing directly in front of him. Explain, the instructor demanded. Your fear response was higher than any other student. I could measure it from here. Yet the predator did not detect you. This should be impossible. Maybe the predator was sensing something else, Jiho suggested. Panic, loss of control. I was scared, but I wasn't panicking. There is no difference between fear and panic. There is for humans. Moradin's forearms crossed in what looked like frustration. You are cheating somehow. You must be. The methodology is proven. 300 years of research. Fear must be eliminated for true control. Hyun spoke up from nearby. Or perhaps humans have found a different path to the same destination. There is no different path, Moradin snapped. There is only the correct way and the failed way. But doubt crept into the instructor's voice. Jiho could hear it. That evening, Jiho sat in the common area doing homework. A screen floated in front of him, displaying complex equations about stress hormones and neural responses. He barely understood half of it. You're making Moradin question everything, a voice said. Jiho looked up. A student he hadn't met before sat down nearby. This one looked almost human, except for the slight shimmer to their skin and the way their eyes were entirely silver. I'm Minjae, the student said. 3rd year. I'm Drell. We're empaths. I can feel emotions. Must be overwhelming in a place like this, Jiho said. Usually everyone here feels the same. Calm, controlled, stillness. Minjae leaned forward. But you feel different. You're afraid almost constantly. Little fears, big fears, all mixed together. But you also feel determined, focused, like the fear is just background noise to you. Jiho thought about that. I guess it kind of is. I've been scared so much in my life that it's just normal now. That's not normal for most species. For us, fear is an emergency signal, something to be avoided. You treat it like the weather. Just something that happens. Maybe that's the difference, Jiho said quietly. He thought about Doyen again. About those 6 hours on Mars. About every moment since when the fear never really left. Maybe humans learned that fear doesn't stop just because you need it to. So we learned to work with it instead. Minjae smiled. The instructors are going to hate that answer. They already do. The following week brought more trials. Enclosed spaces, loud noises, simulated injury. Each time Jiho's fear responses measured off the charts. Each time he passed the trial on his first attempt. Each time the instructors grew more confused and frustrated. Moradin called him in for a private meeting. You are disrupting the program, the instructor said bluntly. Other students see your success and question the methodology. They wonder if they need to achieve stillness at all. This is dangerous thinking. I'm just doing the trials, Jiho replied. You are doing them wrong. But I'm passing. Moradin's forearms clenched. Passing does not mean understanding. You bypass the lesson. You trick the system. This is not true mastery. What is true mastery? Jiho asked. Being unafraid or functioning despite fear. The instructor had no answer. That night, Jiho received a message on his personal device. It was from Yuna Choi, Earth's diplomatic liaison. She checked in on him regularly. Heard you're causing quite a stir, her message read. The coalition is paying attention. Don't mess this up. But also don't let them change what makes you human. We need people who can be scared and still do the job. That's always been our strength. Jiho read the message 3 times before sleeping. Outside his window, stars wheeled past. Somewhere out there, people were counting on him. Not to become fearless. To prove that fear didn't have to mean failure. He closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new trials, new challenges, new opportunities to show the galaxy what humans could do. The fear would be there. It was always there, but so was he. The announcement came during breakfast. All first-year students were to report to the deep chamber immediately after the meal. No exceptions. Hyun's wings buzzed nervously. That is not normal scheduling. Something has changed. Jiho finished his food slowly, trying not to show his own anxiety. He had heard about the deep chamber. Third-year students whispered about it in the halls. It was where the academy tested students who might not be ready, where psychological limits were found and sometimes crossed. First years don't go to the deep chamber until 2nd semester. Minjae had told him once. They're accelerating your timeline. The chamber was located at the station's core where the artificial gravity was weakest. 23 students floated in a spherical room with padded walls. In the center, Headmaster Velterran's crystalline form pulsed with light. You will undergo advanced testing today, Velterran announced. Normally this occurs after 6 months of training. We have decided to accelerate the schedule. Jiho knew what that meant. They were testing him specifically, trying to find his breaking point. The isolation simulation, Velterran continued. You will be placed in sensory deprivation. Time will feel distorted. Minutes may feel like hours. Hours like days. Some experience it as weeks. Your task is to maintain your sense of self. To remain mentally stable. Many students fail this trial. Those who fail are given psychological treatment and allowed to retry after recovery. One by one, students were called forward and placed in individual pods. The pods looked like silver eggs, barely large enough for one person. Jiho watched as Talvex entered a pod. The surface sealed shut, becoming perfectly smooth. Jiho Kim, Veltaran said, "Your turn." Jiho pushed himself toward an empty pod. The interior was soft, comfortable. He settled in. The surface began to close. The last thing he saw was Hyun's concerned face watching him. Then nothing. No light. No sound, no sensation. He couldn't feel his body. Couldn't tell if his eyes were open or closed. The darkness was absolute. Panic tried to rise. Jiho pushed it down. He was okay. This was a test. He was safe. Time passed. How much he couldn't tell. Could have been seconds. Could have been minutes. He tried to move. Couldn't tell if he was moving or not. No feedback from his muscles. No sense of position. The fear grew. This was worse than heights. Worse than predators. This was nothing. Endless nothing. Jiho forced himself to think. He couldn't feel his body, but his mind still worked. He could think. He could remember. He could imagine. He started talking to himself. No sound came out, or maybe it did and he couldn't hear it. But he formed the words anyway. Told himself stories. Recited poems he learned as a child. Sang songs in his head. Time stretched. The nothing continued. He thought about Doyen. Their last conversation. The way Doyen smiled even when everything was falling apart. "We'll get through this," Doyen had said. We always do, but they hadn't. Doyen died. Jiho lived. That was the reality. The nothing pressed in. Jiho felt his sense of self starting to blur. Was he Jiho? Was he anyone? In this void, did he even exist? Yes, he existed. He was Jiho Kim, 24 years old. From Earth, from the Soul Sector. He had a brother named Seok. He had friends. He had a purpose. The fear didn't go away. It stayed constant and heavy, but Jiho existed alongside it. Two truths at the same time. He was terrified. He was still himself. Time passed. Eternities in the dark, then light, sound. Sensation flooded back so fast it hurt. Jiho gasped, his lungs remembering how to breathe. He was in the pod. The pod was opening. He tumbled out into the chamber. Other students floated nearby, some crying, some staring at nothing. Medics moved among them, checking vital signs, offering comfort. Minjae floated over to Jiho. "How long do you think you were in there?" "Days," Jiho said. His voice was rough. "Maybe weeks." 45 minutes, Jiho stared. "That's impossible. For most species, time dilation in isolation is roughly 3 to 1. You experienced it as 30 times longer than reality." Minjae looked concerned. "Are you okay?" "No," Jiho was honest. "But I'm functional." Moradin approached, all four arms moving in agitation. "Your readings are impossible. Your stress levels reached critical for the entire duration. Your mind should have shut down, should have dissociated. Instead, you remained conscious and aware the whole time." "How I talked to myself," Jiho said. "Sang songs. Remembered stories. Kept my mind busy. That should not work. The simulation is designed to prevent such coping mechanisms. Maybe it prevents them for other species." Jiho pulled himself to a vertical position. Humans are storytelling creatures. We create narratives to make sense of chaos. I told myself a story about surviving. So I survived. Veltaran pulsed brightly. "Interesting. But we have one more test for you today." Jiho's stomach sank. "Today?" "The helplessness simulation. Specifically calibrated for you using your own memories." "That's not standard procedure," Minjae protested. "Students need recovery time between advanced simulations." "The human's probation requires accelerated assessment," Veltaran said coldly. "We must determine if humans are suitable for this program. Jiho Kim, enter the next chamber." Jiho wanted to refuse, wanted to demand rest, time to recover, anything. But refusing meant failure. Failure meant going home. Going home meant Earth lost its chance. He entered the next chamber alone. The simulation began immediately. He was on Mars again. The colony shook with explosions. Alarms screamed. People ran past him, faces twisted in terror. And there was Doyen trapped under a collapsed beam. blood everywhere, eyes wide with pain. "Jiho!" Doyen gasped. "Help me, I'm trying." Jiho pulled at the beam. It didn't move. He pulled harder. Nothing. The metal was too heavy, too twisted. He couldn't move it alone. "It hurts," Doyen said. "It hurts so much, I know. "Hold on." Jiho keyed his communicator. "Tow signal." The colony systems were down. He was alone. They were alone. "You have to go," Doyen whispered. "The reactor's unstable. You have to evacuate the others. I'm not leaving you. You have to. 200 people need you." "I'm already dead, Jiho, we both know it. Don't let them die too." The fear was absolute, crushing, overwhelming. This was the worst moment of Jiho's life, and he was living it again. Every detail perfect, every emotion raw. He had made his choice on Mars. He had left Doyen, saved the others, lived with that decision every day since, but this was a simulation. This wasn't real. He could make a different choice. Jiho pulled at the beam with everything he had. His muscles screamed. His hands bled. He leveraged his body weight, found a support beam, used it as a fulcrum. The beam shifted, moved, lifted. Doyen crawled free. "You did it," Doyen said, smiling. "You saved me." And then the simulation changed. Became something else. Doyen's face twisted, became something alien, something wrong. The colony melted away. Jiho stood in darkness again, but this time he wasn't alone. "You failed," a voice said. It sounded like Doyen but wasn't. "You left me to die. You chose strangers over me." "What kind of person does that?" "The kind who had no choice," Jiho said. His voice shook. Tears ran down his face. "I did what had to be done. You were scared. So you ran. You're always scared. Always running." "I'm scared right now," Jiho agreed. "I'm terrified. I'm always terrified. But I didn't run on Mars. I made the hard choice. I saved 200 people. And I've lived with that choice every day since." "You failed me." "Yes." Jiho felt something break inside him, some wall he had built. "Yes, I failed you. I couldn't save everyone. I had to choose. And I chose the many over the one. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'd make the same choice again. Because that's what had to happen." The darkness lifted. The simulation ended. Jiho collapsed on the chamber floor, sobbing. Not from breaking. From release. He had said the words he needed to say. Admitted the truth he had avoided. He had failed. He had done his best, and it wasn't enough. Both things were true. Veltaran stood over him. "You were supposed to break. This simulation has broken every student who experienced it. But you did not break. You accepted the pain, accepted the failure. How is this possible?" Jiho looked up through tears. "Because humans live with failure. We carry our regrets. We don't suppress them. We don't lock them away. We remember, we learn, we keep going. This is not strength. This is choosing to suffer." "Maybe." Jiho stood on shaking legs. "But it's honest. The fear is real. The pain is real. Pretending they don't exist doesn't make them go away. It just makes them control you from the shadows." The headmaster pulsed in a pattern that might have been confusion, or might have been respect. "Rest. Tomorrow we will discuss what this means." Jiho made it back to his room somehow. Hyun and Minjae helped him, one on each side. They didn't ask questions. Just got him to his bed and left him alone. He lay there staring at the ceiling. His body ached. His mind felt raw, exposed, too sensitive. The simulations had dragged up every fear, every pain, every memory he had tried to manage, but he had survived. Not by being strong, not by being fearless, by being honest, by accepting that he was broken in some ways and functional in others. By being human. His communicator buzzed. A message from Yuna. "Heard about the trials. Heard you're still standing. Proud of you." Jiho closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring more challenges. But tonight he just needed to survive until morning. Outside his window, stars turned slowly. The galaxy kept moving. Time kept passing and Jiho kept breathing. The faculty meeting happened without Jiho present, but word spread quickly through the station. Students always found out what the instructors were arguing about. Hyun brought the news to Jiho's room 3 days after the deep chamber trials. "They are fighting about you," Hyun said, settling on Jiho's desk with a soft buzz. "Half want you expelled. Half want to study you. Veltaran has not decided." Jiho sat on his bed, still tired. The simulations had taken more from him than he wanted to admit. Sleep came hard. When it came, nightmares followed. But he kept showing up to classes, kept doing the work. What do you think should happen? Jiho asked. I think you are teaching us something important. Hyun's antennae twitched thoughtfully. I have been trying your method. Feeling the fear, but working anyway. It is very difficult, but also it feels more honest. A knock on the door interrupted them. Minjae entered, followed by someone Jiho didn't recognize. A human. The first other human Jiho had seen since arriving. This is Dr. Soman, Minjae said. She came from Earth to study your training. Dr. Soman was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and sharp eyes. She shook Jiho's hand firmly. I'm a psychologist specializing in stress response. The coalition asked me to evaluate what's happening here.
Do you mind if we talk?
About what? About how you do what you do. Dr. Somin sat down uninvited. The faculty here don't understand you. They think you're somehow suppressing your fear responses while also measuring as terrified. They think their instruments might be broken. But I think I understand what's actually happening, which is, you're experiencing full fear response while maintaining cognitive function. For most species here, those two states are mutually exclusive. Fear triggers a shutdown of higher thinking. It's a survival mechanism. The body takes over. But humans evolved differently. Dr. Soman pulled up a holographic display. It showed branching evolutionary trees. Most spacefaring species developed intelligence in relatively safe environments. They had few natural predators. Their fear responses evolved to be rare but incapacitating. When danger appeared, the correct response was to freeze or flee. Thinking was less important than reaction. She shifted the display. Humans evolved on a death world. Everything was trying to kill us. Predators, disease, weather, other humans. We couldn't afford to shut down every time we felt fear. So we evolved to think while terrified, to plan while panicking, to function in continuous danger. Jiho thought about that. So humans are just built different? In this specific way, yes. Your fear response doesn't override your cognition. They operate in parallel. You can be absolutely terrified and still solve complex problems. It's actually remarkable. The instructors don't think so. They think I'm cheating. Because you're breaking their fundamental assumption. They believe fear must be eliminated to function. You prove that's not true, at least not for humans. Dr. Soman leaned forward. The question is, what do we do with this information? Before Jiho could answer, an announcement echoed through the station. All students and faculty were to report to the main auditorium immediately. Mandatory attendance. The auditorium was enormous, capable of holding thousands. Today it felt crowded with just a few hundred. Students clustered in nervous groups. Faculty members stood in a separate section, clearly divided into opposing camps. At the front, Velterran pulsed on a raised platform. We face a philosophical crisis, the headmaster announced. For 300 years, this institution has operated on a proven methodology. Fear is the enemy of clear thought. Fear must be controlled, suppressed, eliminated. This is foundational truth. Velterran's form shifted, growing brighter. Then came Jiho Kim, a human who feels extreme fear yet functions perfectly, who passes every trial while measuring as terrified, who contradicts everything we know. Murmurs ran through the crowd, some supportive, some hostile. I have consulted with experts. I have reviewed centuries of research. I have meditated on this problem for 3 days. Velterran paused. And I have concluded that we have been partially wrong. The auditorium erupted. Faculty members shouted. Students buzzed with confusion. Velterran waited for silence. We were not wrong that fear can be controlled through suppression. Many species benefit from this approach. But we were wrong to believe it was the only approach. Humans have shown us an alternative, fear acceptance, working with fear rather than against it. Instructor Moradin stood. This is dangerous. You cannot build a curriculum on accepting weakness. Fear is not weakness, Dr. Soman said, standing as well. Fear is information. Humans have learned to use that information without being paralyzed by it. That's not weakness. That's sophisticated emotional processing. Another instructor spoke up. If we teach fear acceptance, students will never achieve true stillness. The entire program will be compromised. Or, Minjae said quietly, perhaps stillness is not the only goal worth achieving. The debate raged for hours. Jiho sat silently, watching beings argue about his psychology like he wasn't there. Some called him an anomaly. Others called him a threat. A few called him an opportunity. Finally, Velterran raised a crystalline hand. Silence fell. We will implement a dual-track system. Students will be evaluated to determine which methodology suits their psychology. Those who can achieve stillness through suppression will follow the traditional path. Those who cannot will be taught the human approach. Fear acceptance and management. This is a mistake, Moradin said. Perhaps, Velturin agreed. But remaining rigid is a greater mistake. The galaxy changes. We must change with it. The meeting ended. Students dispersed, talking excitedly. Faculty members formed clusters, clearly still disagreeing. Jiho found himself surrounded by other students asking questions. How did he stay calm? What was his secret? Could they learn it? There's no secret, he kept saying. I'm not calm. I'm just working while scared. That evening, 2 more humans arrived at the station, Wonho and Yunji, both from Earth's diplomatic training program. They looked young, nervous, excited. We heard about you, Wonho said. Earth wants more representatives here. If you can do it, they figure we can too. Yunji nodded. We've been following your progress. It's impressive. It's exhausting, Jiho said honestly. They're going to test you even harder. They're going to try to find your limits. They're going to make you face every fear you have. But it's possible, Wonho said. You proved it's possible. Jiho looked at these 2 new humans. They were so hopeful, so confident. They didn't know yet what the deep chamber felt like. Didn't know the weight of the simulations. Didn't know what it cost to keep going. But they would learn. And maybe, with a dual-track system, they wouldn't have to fight the curriculum itself while fighting their fears. Yeah, Jiho said. It's possible. The next week, the Academy announced the new program officially. Students could choose their track after baseline testing. Several non-human students requested to try the human approach. They were curious. They had seen Jiho succeed. They wanted to understand. Instructor Kalnix, a being covered in what looked like living metal, approached Jiho in the hallway one day. I oppose this change, Kalnix said bluntly. I believe you are corrupting the institution. I believe humans are dangerous precisely because they function while afraid. Fear should stop action, not motivate it. Why? Jiho asked. Because fearless beings make rational decisions. Fearful beings make desperate ones. Fearful beings make careful ones, Jiho countered. Fear keeps us alert, keeps us from being stupid. Humans who feel no fear die doing reckless things, and humans who feel fear constantly live in misery. Maybe, but we live. We survive. We adapt, Jiho met Kalnix's eyes. Fear doesn't have to be the enemy. It can be a tool. I will prove you wrong, Kalnix said. I am designing a new simulation. The Ultimate Terror Protocol. It will combine every fear simultaneously. No suppression technique can handle it. And I believe no human acceptance technique can either. You will break, and this foolish experiment will end. The instructor walked away before Jiho could respond. That night, Jiho met with Dr. Samin in her temporary office. Kalnix is planning something, he told her. I heard. She looked worried. The Ultimate Terror Protocol is theoretical. It's never been used on actual students. It's considered too dangerous. But Kalnix has influence. If the headmaster approves it, will Velterran approve it? Maybe. To prove the human approach is valid. Or to prove it isn't. Dr. Somin sighed. Jiho, you don't have to do this. You've already accomplished more than anyone expected. You can decline. If I decline, they'll say the human method doesn't work. They'll cancel the dual-track program. Wonho and Yunji won't have a chance. Earth's reputation will suffer. That's not your responsibility. Maybe not. Jiho stared out the window at the stars. But I'm already here. Might as well see it through. Dr. Samin was quiet for a long moment. You remind me why I'm proud to be human, even when it's terrifying. Especially when it's terrifying, Jiho said. The announcement came 2 days later. The Ultimate Terror Protocol would be administered in 1 week. Jiho Kim had volunteered to be the first subject. All students and faculty were invited to observe. Hyun found Jiho in the library. You do not have to do this. You have proven enough. Have I? Or have I just made people angry? You have shown us a different way. That is enough. Not if it gets rejected. Jiho closed his book. I need to prove the human method works even in the worst circumstances. Otherwise, everything we've accomplished here means nothing. Minjae joined them. I will be monitoring your emotions during the protocol. If it becomes too much, I'll recommend they stop it. Don't, Jiho said. Don't stop it unless I'm dying. Because if we stop, we lose. The week passed too quickly and too slowly. Jiho trained, rested, prepared mentally. He tried not to think about what combining every fear might feel like. Tried not to imagine how bad it could get, but he was human. Of course he imagined it. Of course he was afraid. The fear was always there. It never left. It was as much a part of him as his heartbeat. The night before the protocol, Jiho couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of what was coming. His communicator buzzed. A message from Siak, his brother back on Earth. Hey, heard what you're doing tomorrow. Everyone here is watching. Everyone's proud. I know you're scared. You're always scared. But you're also always brave. Good luck, brother. Jiho read it 3 times. Then he closed his eyes and tried to rest. Tomorrow would either prove everything or destroy it all. The observation room was filled to capacity. Students pressed against the windows. Faculty members stood in tense groups. Dr. Soman sat at a monitoring station, her face pale. Minjae stood beside her, ready to sense any emotional breakdown. Wonho and Yunji held hands in the back, watching their fellow human prepare to do something impossible. Jiho stood in the center of the chamber, alone. The room was bare except for a single chair, and the neural interface helmet that would connect him to the simulation. Above him, holographic displays showed his vital signs. Heart rate already elevated. Stress hormones rising. Every sensor confirmed what everyone could see. He was afraid. Velteren's voice echoed through the chamber. The Ultimate Terror Protocol has never been used on a living subject. It combines every fear category simultaneously. Heights, drowning, predators, isolation, pain, loss, helplessness, failure. The simulation will not end until completion or until the subject's mind shuts down as a protection mechanism. Jiho Kim, you may withdraw. No one will judge you. I'm ready, Jiho said. His voice shook. He didn't try to hide it. Instructor Kelnix operated the controls. This will prove that fear cannot be accepted and managed. It must be eliminated. The human will break, and this misguided experiment will end. Or, Yan said from the observation room, we will learn something new. Jiho sat in the chair. The helmet lowered onto his head. He felt the cold touch of sensors against his temples. His heart hammered. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to leave, to stop this before it started. But he stayed. The simulation began. Immediately, Jiho stood on a narrow platform 1,000 meters above an endless drop. The platform tilted and shook. Wind screamed. His stomach lurched with vertigo, but he wasn't just standing on a platform. He was also drowning. Water filled his lungs. He couldn't breathe. Panic flooded his system, and something chased him. A predator. He could hear it breathing behind him, feel its heat, smell its hunger. And he was trapped, enclosed in a space too small to move. The walls pressed in, claustrophobia crushed him, and he was isolated. Completely alone in darkness. No sound, no touch. No sense of time or space, and pain tore through his body. Every nerve screaming, agony without end. And he watched Doyen die again, and his brother Siok, and everyone he cared about. Helpless to save them. Forced to witness, and he failed. Failed at everything. Failed everyone. The weight of failure crushing him under impossible guilt. All of it. Simultaneously. Every terror the human mind could experience, all at once. Jiho's consciousness splintered under the assault. His mind tried to process everything and couldn't. The fear was total, absolute, overwhelming. In the observation room, alarms blared. Jiho's heart rate spiked to dangerous levels. His brain activity showed patterns consistent with severe trauma. Dr. Samin's hands flew across her controls. His cortisol levels are lethal, she said. We need to stop this. No, Minjae said, though his voice trembled. Wait, feel him. Really feel him. I feel terror, pure terror. Yes, but underneath, there's something else. Inside the simulation, Jiho wanted to shut down, wanted his mind to flee, to dissociate, to escape into unconsciousness. It would be so easy. Just let go. Let the fear win. Accept the darkness, but something in him refused. He was Jiho Kim, he was human. He was afraid, and being afraid was okay. He couldn't suppress the fears, couldn't push them away. There were too many, too strong, too real. But he didn't have to suppress them. He could acknowledge them. Accept them. Let them exist. Yes, he was falling. Yes, he was drowning. Yes, he was dying. All of it was true in this moment. All of it was real to his body and mind, but he was also still himself. Still thinking, still choosing. The fears were information. They told him what mattered, what he cared about, what he valued. Fear of heights meant he valued life. Fear of isolation meant he valued connection. Fear of failure meant he valued purpose. Jiho stopped fighting the fears, stopped trying to overcome them or work around them. He simply accepted them as part of himself, part of being alive, part of being human. And in that acceptance, something shifted. The fears didn't disappear. They remained just as intense, but they no longer controlled him. He experienced them fully while remaining himself. Two states existing simultaneously, terrified and functional, broken and whole. In the observation room, the readings changed. Jiho's heart rate was still dangerously high, but it stabilized. His brain activity showed coherent patterns even through the chaos. He wasn't shutting down. He wasn't dissociating. He was enduring. Impossible, Kelnix whispered. The simulation should have broken him by now. He's not trying to break free, Dr. Soman said with wonder. He's not fighting it. He's accepting it, living through it. Minjae closed his eyes, feeling the emotional landscape of Jiho's mind. I've never felt anything like this. He's experiencing every fear completely, but he's also experiencing something else. Determination, purpose, humanity. Minutes passed. In the simulation, time stretched into eternities. Jiho lived through every nightmare, felt every terror, faced every demon his mind could conjure, and he kept thinking, kept being himself, kept choosing to continue, not because he was strong, not because he was brave, because he was human. And humans had learned over millions of years that fear didn't have to mean the end. It could mean the beginning of survival. Finally, after 15 minutes that felt like 15 lifetimes, the simulation ended. The chamber doors opened. Jiho stumbled out. He collapsed to his knees, shaking violently. Sweat soaked his clothes. Tears ran down his face. He looked like someone who had survived a war, because he had. Dr. Soman ran to him. Are you okay? Can you hear me? I'm not okay, Jiho gasped. I'm terrified. I'm traumatized. I'm broken. But I'm here. I'm still here. Veltaran materialized beside him. You should not be conscious. Your fear response exceeded anything we thought possible. You should have retreated into your mind. Should have shut down. Why didn't you? Because humans don't work that way. Jiho looked up at the crystalline being. We feel everything. We're scared of everything. But we learned to live with it. Because we had to. Because fear doesn't stop just because you need it to. Instructor Kelnix approached slowly. I was wrong. I wanted to prove humans were weak. But you've proven something else. You've proven that accepting fear requires more strength than suppressing it. It's not about strength, Jiho said. It's about survival. It's about continuing when everything tells you to stop. That's what humans do. The observation room erupted in discussion. Some faculty members argued this changed everything. Others insisted it changed nothing. But no one could deny what they had witnessed. Headmaster Veltaran raised a crystalline hand. Silence fell. I have reached a decision. The Valorian Fear Management Institute will formally recognize two equal methodologies. Suppression for species whose psychology allows it. Acceptance for species whose psychology requires it. Both are valid. Both are worthy. Both will be taught. Moradin stepped forward. I wish to apologize to Jiho Kim. I called him a cheat. I said he was doing the exercises wrong. But he was doing them differently. That is not the same thing. Jan flew down to land beside Jiho. You have taught us much. Not just about humans, about fear itself, about different ways of being. Over the following weeks, the academy transformed. New courses were created. The curriculum was revised. Students were evaluated not just for fear levels, but for psychological type. Some learned suppression. Others learned acceptance. Many learned elements of both. Wanho and Yunji thrived in the new program. Other human students arrived, each bringing their own perspective. And surprisingly, several non-human students requested to train in the acceptance methodology. They found it suited them better than traditional suppression. Jiho was offered a position as an instructor. At 24, he would be the youngest faculty member in the academy's history. He accepted. His first class had 12 students. 3 humans, 9 from other species. All of them struggled with traditional fear suppression. All of them wanted to learn a different way. Fear is not your enemy, Jiho told them on the first day. Fear is information. It tells you what matters, what you care about, what you need to protect. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to understand it, accept it, work with it. One student raised a tentacle. But if we accept fear, won't we always be afraid? Yes, Jiho said honestly. You probably will, I'm afraid right now. Standing here teaching you, I'm terrified I'll mess this up. But being afraid doesn't mean I can't teach. It means I care about teaching well. He walked among the students. The old way taught you to achieve stillness, to remove emotion, to function without fear. That works for some beings. But for others, for humans especially, we function with fear. We acknowledge it, understand it, and act anyway. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. The semester progressed. Jiho's students learned to recognize their fears, name them, accept them, and most importantly, to continue functioning while afraid. Some failed. Some couldn't handle the approach. They switched to traditional suppression training, and that was okay. The point wasn't to force everyone into one method. The point was to offer choices. Graduation day arrived. The ceremony was held in the main auditorium, packed with students, faculty, and visitors from across the galaxy. Ambassador Tae Yang attended, representing Earth. He smiled with pride as human students crossed the stage in their new uniforms. Jiho stood with the other instructors. Veltarin approached him. You have changed this institution, the headmaster said. In 300 years, no one questioned our methods. Then you arrived and forced us to reconsider everything. I just did what I had to do, Jiho said. Yes, while terrified. That is the lesson you taught us. That terror and function are not opposites. They are companions. The ceremony concluded with a new tradition. Instead of the old motto, emotion through absence, graduates now recited a new one. Emotion through understanding. Students who completed the acceptance track added a second line, written by Jiho himself. We acknowledge fear. We accept its presence. We act despite it. This is our courage. That evening, Jiho sat in his office looking out at the stars. His communicator chimed. A message from Seok. Watched the ceremony. Watched you teach. Watched you change everything. Dad would be proud. Doyen would be proud. I'm proud. You took your fear and turned it into wisdom. That's the most human thing possible. Jiho smiled. He was still afraid. Still carried the trauma of Mars. Still remembered the deep chamber. Still felt terror every time he pushed himself. But he had learned to live with it, to accept it, to use it. 5 years later, the Academy had graduated 200 students in the acceptance methodology. Crisis response teams across the galaxy requested graduates specifically trained in the human approach. They performed better in high-stress situations. They made better decisions under pressure. They saved more lives. Other institutions began adopting the dual methodology. Fear management evolved. Psychology advanced. The galaxy learned something new about courage. And at the center of it all, Jiho Kim continued teaching, continued facing his own fears, continued proving that being afraid and being capable were not contradictions. They were, in fact, the most human combination possible. On his desk sat a plaque, a gift from his first graduating class. It read, "The bravest among us are not those who feel no fear. They are those who feel everything and continue anyway." Jiho looked at it every day, remembered where he came from, remembered what he had proven. Fear was not weakness. Fear was humanity. And humanity, when accepted and understood, was stronger than anyone had imagined. The Academy had taught fear control. Then they had enrolled their first human. And everything changed. Not because humans were fearless, but because humans understood something the galaxy had forgotten. Fear was not the enemy. Fear was the teacher. And the lesson was simple. You could be terrified and still be brave. You could be broken and still be whole. You could be human and still be extraordinary. Jiho closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Tomorrow would bring new students, new challenges, new fears, and he would face them all. Terrified, determined, human, as always.